Welcome to K. Elizabeth Toasts, a podcast celebrating people who increase our quality of life. I'm your host, K. Elizabeth. Each episode is a heartfelt interview of a remarkable person making lives better through one of the 5 social determinants of health. The World Health Organization says these social determinants can impact up to 55% of our health outcomes. That's more than our lifestyle choices and medical care combined. In this episode, we are focusing on the social determinant of economic stability. Give a listen if you are in need of a dopamine hit, or if you like toast, because this toasts for you.
Hi, I'm Kat Palavoda. My pronouns are she, her.
Kat, what do you do?
I do a lot of things, but the main thing is that I own a plus-size resale shop called Cake Plus Size Resale in Minneapolis.
Okay, tell me about Cake.
Yeah, so like the name suggests, we are a plus-size resale shop. I found that when I was, out there thrifting as a plus-size person, it was just pretty slim pickings for plus-size folks in resale spaces. Both physically, like that sad little rack at the back, and also virtually. There's, as time has gone on, there's been more resale opportunities on Poshmark, on people, people selling things on Instagram, etc. And there just wasn't good plus representation. And so that is part of the reason why I'm so proud to have created a space. That they say, like, create what you wish existed. And I very much see that as part of what my business is. I'm also, what's something that's special about owning a resale shop is that, like, I'm not responsible, me and my customers are not responsible for, creating any new stuff in the world. And what's so special is that, like, we are sharing money amongst ourselves. Like, I often say, there's certain brands that I think are, most brands I think are not good for the world. And people might ask, like, oh, well, you sell this brand here, or oh, you're supporting this brand. It's like, no. These things already existed. Now you and I are just exchanging money amongst ourselves. These garments are having lives, like, multiple lives after that in a space that is different than, giving our money to whoever produced them originally. The sustainability piece of it all feels, it's not, to be honest, the reason I was drawn to a resale shop. It was the affordability factor that was really there for me. But as years have gone on, like, I am just so proud to have a space that is not responsible for creating any more stuff and being able to work within what we already have.
I feel like there has to be some sort of story. The difference between creating new stuff and reselling. The reselling is probably not as common. At least in a lot of the circles that I think of in social media, it's all about creating. How
Mhm.
did you get there?
For me, so my shop started very small, like me just honestly having extra things in my closet and wanting to, like, make a little money and pass it on. And things just really grew and grew and grew to now where, Cake is a brick and mortar space in South Minneapolis. We also sell online, and there's, a lot of other components to the shop beyond just, the clothes that are, hanging on the racks. Also, I saw my mom, resale shopping for forever. I saw my mom hunting for deals my whole life. And I don't know if this fits in, but, like, part of it, when we think about plus size fashion, scarcity always feels like one of the themes. We're always saying there's not enough for us. There's not enough folks making stuff for us. If they are, they're not going up high enough in sizes. And all of that's true. And also, there are so many plus size brands in existence. You just, like, can't go to the store and find them. Well, there's just, like, a wide variety of things that we'll have in store that you can't go to any other shop
Mm.
that isn't resale and find all of the brands represented. And so that appeals to me a lot too. I hope for all of us, we've had a shopping experience somewhere where it's like, ooh, the things I'm trying on are fitting. I'm finding what I need. I look good. I wish that for everyone. It's not everyone has a good time in my shop. Not everyone finds what they're looking for. It's not everyone's story, but it is a lot of people's stories. And I'll tell you, like, I, will stand behind the cash register and, like, listen to people in the fitting rooms trying things on. And it's like, to be able to hear people verbally, either, like, to themselves or to the person they're shopping with, or, like, to the room, be so excited about the things that they're finding. And to just, like, get to listen in on the joy they're experiencing with that shopping. But I unfortunately, I don't think a lot of us are feeling that in most of our shopping experiences. And my hope is that it might be a little bit easier to have that kind of experience at Cake. I'll also say, having having a shopping moment, a shopping experience where someone feels like they are centered, like, we're here, that plus sizes are like the norm and the majority in a space, that they're like comfortable in fitting rooms trying stuff on, that there is like a light and bright atmosphere around them. Like those are things that I hoped for and kind of built into how I've set things up in my shop. And I'll tell you, like, people have given me feedback of those exact things. They've said like, wow, I've never had an experience shopping like this before. Wow, I've never went thrifting and found this much stuff. Oh, I've never had this much fun like shopping for clothes before. These are pieces of feedback that we get, and that's just like, it is an indescribable feeling to have the goals you set out for, like, the things that you wanted to create, to receive feedback validating those exact things. Like, it's really, really special.
There's a couple of really great things about thrifting, at least from my perspective. So one
Mhm,
is you get a unique piece.
mhm.
You have a curated selection that you have, but there's also this benefit of being able to walk out with a whole bunch of stuff at a significantly reduced price.
Right.
I wondered if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly why I like thrifting, is because of the deals to be had. That's why it's always appealed to me. Yeah, it's so interesting. Sometimes people will even kind of load up on stuff. They'll be, 10 items or something, and we'll ring them up, and it's like it would be the price of like one or two full price items at like Torrid. It's like, "Oh, you just got 7 pair of jeans for like, $120 when like 2 pair of jeans would be more than $120." It's just wild, like the difference there. So that appeals to me and appeals to shoppers as well. Resale standard stipulates that when a garment comes in, like, we should charge between 30 and 50% of what that costs new on the rack. So like the MSRP, the price, before any sales or deals or discounts, and then we should charge 50% to 30% of that. And I'm actually pretty proud. Like, we are very conservative with our pricing. Our pricing is very, yeah, like we're often closer to that 30% point than that 50% point.
How do you make that decision as a business owner to go closer to that 30% instead of that closer to the 50%?
Well, I don't know this. I know we might get there, but in the workbook I created for reusing the soda, there's a whole page and a half about how one would do that. So, like, there's criteria, based on condition, season, demand, things like that. But also for us, kind of like as a rule at Cake, I want price points to align with what folks are willing to spend and what folks perceive as affordable. And the affordability, that is a moving target. That is different for everyone. Our prices are too expensive for some folks, like that's kind of, like I said, affordability is a really moving target. Like, within all business, it's like if you don't charge a certain amount for things, there's that sort of like lowest level you can charge to be able to keep the lights on. And that's, needs to be a consideration as well.
During the pandemic, you really struggled, as did so many small businesses.
Yeah.
And you made a decision that, if I'm really honest, I don't know how you came to make that decision. It was one of the most selfless decisions I think I've ever heard of in business, to step off of the floor and to keep your employees.
Yeah, it's been a lot of yeah, kind of hardship along the way, but we still weren't making ends meet. It was still like, how are we just like not able to afford the basics of business, the rent, the electricity, paying staff? One thing I know for sure is if someone's not getting paid, it's never going to be my team. Payroll will never be the thing that I won't be like. I will be late on everything else before I can't make that. So in 2022, I made the decision to take a full-time job outside of Cake and really like reconceptualize growth. For me, growth had always meant more locations, bigger, better, more. And maybe it will be that one day, but I really have reframed that for me and kind of thought about growth in terms of my team. Me and one other person, we can make payroll no problem, like that's not an
Yeah.
issue. But I want to have the opportunity to share impact in different ways, to do different things.
What is this project that you worked on?
The coolest thing ever. I just like I can't even begin to just well, I will tell you, I will describe how cool it is. So there's an organization called Reuse Minnesota, and they're focused on the reuse economy. So like empowering businesses and individuals. And also I think there's a focus on like legislation around being more sustainable in like, our personal shopping business practices and beyond. I'm sure I'm like not getting all the elements of this organization correct. But anyway, Reuse Minnesota is their name. They're great. So they had a request for proposal out saying, hey, we've identified as an organization that we think, we see resale business owners needing business development training specific to resale businesses. Can someone create this for us? If you want to put a proposal together, send it our way. And they were wonderful enough to choose my proposal. And so I got to work with them developing a workbook for resale business owners in Minnesota. And then also we put together a training series that I got to facilitate. So it was like a 2-part, 2 Sunday afternoons kind of training for the cohort that went through the first one. And then this workbook is just like out there in the world for anyone to use. I think it would be applicable no matter where you are in the, I guess, world, or at least the US. But it's specific. Many of the resources cited and referenced are specific to Minnesota.
So who would it be appropriate for this workbook?
Any folks who either are interested in starting or have a resale business and are interested in growing it. And resale just means like, there's a lot of different ways to think about it, like vintage or antiques, or, resale also it's not just clothing. It's like people have really incredible businesses with like resale of building supplies and like, restored lumber that they've, bricks from this bridge that now people can buy to put in their gardens. Like there's a lot of ways resale can show up. You think about like a new and used bookstore, like that's also resale.
When I think about, starting a business or embarking on any sort of entrepreneurial process, it seems like a daunting process, and it seems like it would be really difficult to know where to begin in order to make a living for oneself. And I really appreciate you created that process for someone to be able to try and find some stability for themselves, hopefully sooner rather than later in their.
Yeah, isn't that just it? Yeah.
Who would you like to toast?
Okay, I'm gonna do 2 toasts. One toast is just to my whole cake team. My whole cake plus size resale team, specifically Morgan and Pasashia, the co-managers, but the others on the team as well, Rin, Aaron, Jax, and Ruth. Toasts to all of them. And then my singular toast is to one of my dear, dear friends and fat liberation co-conspirator, Saraya Bogani. We had a podcast called Matter of Fat for 5 years together. Toast to Saraya for her work with that, for her incredible friendship, and for the positive impact she has around in her place of work, with her friends, and everyone that knows and loves her. Toast to Saraya.
Toast to Saraya and toast to the cake team.
Yes, thank you.
So I would like to do a toast to you,
Oh,
Kat, for creating community, for creating access to clothing, to make people feel better about themselves, to make them feel confident, for valuing your employees, for creating what you wanted in the world, for creating a roadmap for other people to be able to follow in your footsteps. When I think about, the metaphor of throwing a rope down to pull someone up, whether that be, again, your employees or other business owners, and for welcoming and valuing everyone who walks into your store, I think the thing that really stands out to me about you is the way that you use money to build community. I really liked how much you said that when you may or may not value the brands, but that's not where the money is going. You're keeping the money within the community, and you're building your community's financial impact and their financial wealth by buying from and by selling at a reasonable price. So for that, cheers to you.
Oh, wow. That is one hell of a toast. Thank you so much.
Now it's time for your toast.
My name is Jill, and I would like to toast Catherine. I don't remember who taught me to knit. I was able to knit squares and scarves. I can remember sewing a small scarf together to make a dress for my sister's Barbie. One summer in the mid-60s, Catherine taught me to read a knitting pattern. We both made vests. Mine was green and riddled with mistakes. Even so, I was very proud of my accomplishment. In knitting the vest, Catherine taught me the basics of reading a pattern and shaping a garment which would fit a person instead of a doll. Over the years, my skills in both pattern reading and knitting techniques have grown. Today, I'm fortunate to have a supportive group of friends who share my passion for knitting. Thank you, Catherine, for teaching me to read a knitting pattern all those years ago. This toast's for you.
Now it's your turn. Honor someone who has positively impacted your life by recording your own toast at ketoasts.com. Thanks for joining us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please tap the follow button, rate us using the star button, and share this podcast with someone to keep us going. Then go toast up some bread, because every positive action is worth toasting.
I'm like the kind of person, and maybe you'll ask me this for a second, but I'm the kind of person who reshares something on Twitter like, sounds like you don't know the social determinants of health. And it shows one of the most fun things is when someone will come in and say, I have an interview. And so we're like looking for an interview outfit. And then they come in like a month later, like, I got the job. Like those moments are really cool. I feel like you've already been toasty. You've been so kind to me. Okay, but if we end the podcast, like we still hang out, right?